Infinite stupidity. I just had this stupid realization, this stupid situation I'm in. There's an entire thing I talk about when people don't listen to me. It goes bad. Spoilers. When we were at Papa John's and I was talking to Blondie's dumbass, one of the things I remember, this little backstory, is when you're God or the devil as president, you're basically somebody else's projection of what that deity is. Okay. So, if I had to explain this, anal eating mummy god in Blondie, and this is the problem with narcissists. If you tell them something, they do the opposite, because they have to prove you wrong. They gotta stick it to you. You said words they don't like. I speak in absolutions. I do not go I think or I like. I speak in solid facts because I believe in solid facts. That is who I am. I don't bullshit. Okay? Bullshitting is when you say I think or I like or any of these other things. No, I don't give a damn what you think because what you think is objective. Okay? And Blondie was like, well, and this is the thing about a narcissist. Their reality is objective. But the problem with them is they don't know where they end and others begin. They want everybody to live in their objective reality. Blondie's dumbass brain, Stu's dumbass brain, Gannon's dumbass brain, the president's dumbass brain, they all have their own objective realities where they're gods. They're in control of everything. And that's why everything is fucked up, by the way, because this is what these idiots came up with. They're dumbasses. They are gods, they're stupid gods. But my point about this entire metric is narcissists hate it when you shatter their objective reality, because it means they have to deal with reality, and they hate reality because it's something they're simply not in control of. But in their brains, in this church, they figured out they could hypnotize anybody through some bullshit, and they can change your objective reality to match their objective reality. And in this, they're like, therefore I am right. And you're like, no, because erasure isn't peace, stupid fuck. And if you don't bend to it, they murder you, because that's erasure, and that equals their peace, because if you stand against them, you are evidence that they are wrong. And they cannot handle being wrong, even though they're wrong. I bring this up because when I was at Papa John's again, Blondie had called anal eating mummy god, and we were talking on the phone, casual like, and he was like, well, basically, he was like, you can give yourself chelation therapy. You can, but it destroys your teeth. He lied. He says it doesn't destroy your teeth. And he said that because he wanted to get his way. He does not care about telling the truth. He does not care about what happens to other people. He lied. Okay? And then I was like, they were like, well, this guy that's extremely traumatized from what we did to him, basically has to figure out a way to go to court and stop the church a second time. And we put together this narrative. And this is the thing with narcissists. They spin narratives. And everybody has to play to their narratives. And if they don't, they freak out, scream, and throw tantrums. Because, once again, you are distorting their objective reality. That is why they kill you when you fail at these tasks. Because, well, their reality is objective and they're imposing it onto you. And when you don't do what they want you to, well, guess what? Poo-poo, you die. Because erasure is peace. You disrupt their reality, they are no longer at peace, okay? Because they want to live in an imaginary world. And they do live in an imaginary world. So, I tell him, I go, well, the guy would need serious psychological help if you want him to do all these things. And then anal eating mummy guy's like, well, what if he did it himself? I was like, that's not a thing. Self-help is not a thing. George Carlin said that. And anal eating mummy god tells me he knows George. Obviously not, because George Carlin said self-help isn't a thing. The entire thing I've been doing down here has been effectively wasting time. It has. The only real realization that has come to fruition in my brain is the fact that for whatever reason, I thought responsibility was punishment. I have no, well, once I gotta do know, because I had that dream. And the other thing is these guys implying that I'm the emotionally stunted one, and that's a projection. Because they're severely emotionally stunted, and they have no introspective, so Blondie cannot look at himself and go, I'm severely emotionally stunted. And his brain, the ego and superego are a single entity, and it's chaos. And in that in his brain, that chaos is beautiful, and it makes perfect sense. And why does that chaos beautiful to him? Because it means he can do no wrong, because there's no objective good. So if you remove objective good, you can do horrible shit like poison people, invade their brains with hypnosis, and fuck them up as much as you can to get what you want, and you're still the good guy, because goodness doesn't exist. That is the aspect of these idiots. So I tell them that's a really stupid idea, and look at where we're at now. Anal eating mummy god had to prove me wrong and put me in Florida with no psychological help. This is what happens when you don't listen to me. Okay. He then said, this individualization shit that Carl Jung came up with, which I was refusing to listen to because Blondie told me about him, and Blondie's a fascist, so I just assumed Blondie was a retard. And Blondie is a retard because he literally believed that popping LSD was the same thing as reaching individualization, because he's like, it removes the self, but you're still stuck with your ego and superego fused together in your chaos engine, Blondie, and you have no introspective. So even when your self is gone, that's the ego, by the way, guess what, Blondie, you still have your chaos engine. That thing Friedrich Nietzsche created. I'd imagine that's gotta hurt. The realization that you can't individualize because you have a lead brain. And that is a fact. And they're going to go, you can't individualize with a lead brain. I'm just going to make it up and say I did because it's objective. I can lie about it. This is what happens when you don't live in reality. When I was talking to Anal Eating Mummy God, he went on a thing about that. He explained that I was the child and they were the adults. And I was like, you guys are the adults for what? And then he basically got sideways, started explaining all this horse shit about Freemasons and cutting you into the block. I was like, no. I was like, let's be clear. You objectively believe that you have the superior psychology that is completely obedient to you. I was like, so in your brain, everybody that just does what you say, that's what makes you a man, because these people just do what you say. And I was like, and you can do no wrong because you won't admit that you can do wrong. I was like, because you guys can do plenty of wrong. What you mean to say is you can't be held to account because there's nobody to hold you to account for the horrors you cause anybody, because you do not do accountability, and accountability and responsibility come with, say it with me, being a man. Something Blondie is not, something Gannon is not, something Stu is not. The only thing they know how to do is avoid responsibility at all costs. They cannot be men by that metric. And then he was like, this guy that we did horrible shit to has to take responsibility for everything we did because we're not gonna. And I was like, because you're children. And he went, ah! Because he doesn't want to admit it. All you guys have to do is admit that every man in your church is a 2-year-old, and we can just get this over with. Okay? So... And he was like, and I was like, and you guys, and then do what? And he was like, and then file pro se. I was like, so after this guy gives him chelation therapy, dehypnosis therapy, I was like, gives himself psychological help, somehow reprograms his mind, and then Anal Eating Mummy goes, have you heard of these things called affirmations? They're amazing. You don't need psychological help, you just need affirmations. Affirmations they do not work that way. You cannot just repeat something again and again and then it becomes true. But this church believes that because they're emotionally stunted. That works when you're emotionally stunted. When you think like a 2-year-old, that works. Because you have no, it's effective realism. Effective realism is where you just believe things into reality that simply aren't true. Blondie believing that he's a good guy, for example. Or he doesn't belong in prison, where he belongs, with the rest of his bastards. So, he then goes, okay, you have to do, this guy has to do all these things, and after he gives himself psychological help, and then he recovers with chelation therapy, and he does all these things, he then has to turn himself in and go to prison for the church, and then good things will happen. And I was like... that guy's fucked. And he was like, what? I was like, does he have any money, assets, or any ability? I was like, is this guy even giving you an iota that he can file pro se? And I was like, and what if he has a learning comprehension disorder like me? And Anal Eating Mummy God went, and you could hear the stupid in his head. And then he was like, those go away with the Carl Jung individualization. That was another lie he told. It is amazing how these guys go, I don't lie, and then just lie nonstop as much as they can to get what they want. Because this is what happens with a 2-year-old. When a 2-year-old wants something, they will say anything to get it. When I was a really young kid, I wanted a dipstick, and I told my dad it was a delicious and nutritious treat when it was just sugar. And it's because I wanted the damn sugary treat of the dipstick. Okay. That is how children think. And when you meet an adult or a god that does that, you are dealing with a child. Not a man, not a god, but a 2-year-old. Now, these guys don't have introspective. And I think about how in George Miller's Furiosa movie, basically, fucking, the fuck is his name? Dementis is supposed to be me. And he ends up getting crippled by everybody else, and then everything goes bad. And that's exactly what happened to me. I got crippled by everything else, and then it went bad. And then everybody was like, it's your fault, even though we fucked you up to begin with. That's not my fault. The word's called accountability. Maybe you guys should put that into your rhetoric. And I remember Blondie being like, we do have accountability. No. What you have is disciplinary action. Disciplinary action is not accountability. It is not responsibility. It is you beating somebody, assaulting, or killing somebody because they hurted your feelings or they didn't do what you wanted. Or worse, the worst thing on a planet to a narcissist, they damaged your own objective reality. It's funny because Blondie was like, reality is objective and whatever I believe into it like a 2-year-old. Like a 2-year-old. Okay. But my biggest beef about this infinite stupidity is I told them. I have been sitting down here trying to recover from all this fucking trauma, all these fucking mental conditions on my own without any psychological oversight, and learning a bunch of shit about psychology for no fucking reason, because regardless of that, I cannot separate into Bobby psychologist and Bobby the trauma and then fucking fix those things separately. Especially in a 2-year span of time. Have you ever heard the stories of people who self-recover from trauma? They're like 60 when they're like, oh, at the age of, after the age of 40, I started my work. And then they're like 55 by the time they solved all the fucking problems. Okay. That is why you don't do it alone, and therapists and psychologists exist. I know it's very complicated. You're going to want to explain it to your dumbass church leaders so that they fucking figure that out, because they're too stupid to figure it out on their own. Because in their brains, they go, I can do it myself! And they can't. They simply can't. But they're going to lie and say they did, or they found a way, or they manipulated, they bullshitted, or Blondie. He could individualize by popping LSD. And look at his individualization. What did it do? It caused a bunch of innocent people to get killed. It caused him to constantly assault me for shit I didn't remember I did and didn't even know who I was at the time, because I was hypnotized by a bunch of dumb bitches out in the desert that decided they just wanted, I helped them, and all they wanted to do was hurt me as much as they could, because in this religion, hurting people is good for them. It's not. It makes people like you shitty people who then in their self-righteousness claim that they're good, and then when they come across people who are downtrodden that are in bad, they beat the shit out of them and enslave them and go, that's how that is, I don't care, I'm the victim. No, you're not. Okay, but I wanted to say this about that. Even Anal Eating Mummy God, when the church went bad, immediately said he's the victim of the rules of the church, and he had to follow the church rules. Which, if the religion is that evil, then why don't all of you just go, hey, my religion is pure fucking evil, all it is a massive human trafficking ring, we've committed every atrocity under God's green earth, holy shit, the devil himself would fucking blush at the shit we've done. Can you guys just get rid of our church? Like, because we're really fucking stupid, and we just keep following the rules because they're under the threat of death. And you might go, and I remember the shit with George where he's trying to explain to me, I was the emotionally stunted one because I wasn't willing to get myself killed. Yes, a young kid from Ackworth, Georgia, who didn't have a girlfriend, who hasn't experienced life yet, is somehow being selfish and won't get himself killed for a bunch of assholes who left him out there to die to begin with. I'm the selfish one, apparently. This is what happens when you're dealing with another 2-year-old. Things are always going to be bad, but I will say this to Augusta Gore, who told me when I became president and I was out there, she said, you have to get out of there, that place is evil. And then she started laughing and said, oh, good luck out there, you're gonna find out why it's so terrible. I learned that, Augusta, and thank you for not handling that in the proper way. But I forgive you because I know you were traumatized. The issue is everybody else was too stupid to figure this out. So I guess to recap, assuming we have enough time, I told them you can't give yourself psychological therapy. I was right. You can't. I've been wasting my time down here. I told them affirmations can't heal you. I was right. They can't. I told them individualization can't cure a learning disorder. And I want to talk about this. You might go, Bobby, how are you so smart if you have a comprehension disorder? My learning comprehension disorder is strictly in literature, like reading. I will describe my comprehension disorder like this. My mind will read something, but it will not be committed to intellectual thought process. I have the Google audio reader read me fetish stories so I can jack off. Okay. That is how my brain processes those, because I cannot process them any other way. I am observational as shit. All my psychology shit I have learned through observation and auditory. Okay. When it comes to reading shit, it's not there. And here's the thing. I've read books. It took me hours. And I have actually committed a handful of those to actual memory and learning. But it is not in the same graphic or definition I have with the other skills I have. That is because I have a learning comprehension disorder. And it's made worse when whatever I'm reading is not comprehensible, like jargon and words and anything super complex. My brain can't comprehend it. So the biggest lie that would just go away, that is one of the biggest nails. And I just want to point out, at the end of all this shit, I know nobody wants to hear it because I do this a lot and they call it tooting your own horn. I was right about everything. This is what happens when you set up a scenario where you try to force your view onto somebody else, your way of life onto somebody else, and go, this is the only way to do it, this is the only way it works, there is no other way, even though I already beat you with my way and you couldn't fucking handle it, so you had to cheat. And then you go, oh, well, cheating is the superior way, when I look you dead in the face and go, yeah, if you have no honor, if you have no integrity, if you have no values whatsoever, cheating is wonderful.